What is up, everybody? So here are some of my favorite starts for Week 12. Let's get it. So Miles Sanders, the Giants are giving up the fourth most points per game to the running back position. 16 carries immediately after missing 3 weeks due to injury. He had 5.9 average yards in that game. I think if he finds the end zone, he's due for a big day because the Eagles are looking to run and establish the run a little bit more now, and he's getting some nice touches there. James Robinson. So the Falcons give up the third most points per game to the running back position. He's been battling some injuries, but back-to-back games with a touchdown. I think he's going to go for his third straight day with a touchdown, and I think that the overall touches, the carries, and the passes caught will increase in this game. So I like James Robinson. Michael Pittman Jr. versus Tampa Bay, wide receiver 12 on the year, but he's had 2 mediocre games in a row. I don't think that the Colts are going to be able to depend on Jonathan Taylor like they have recently for the full workload of a game. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to give them a very good game in this one. So I think that Carson Wentz is going to have to establish the passing game a bit more in this. So we've seen in the past Michael Pittman Jr. have games of 2 games with 12 targets, 1 game with 15 targets. I think this is going to be another one with high volume for Michael Pittman Jr., who's had 4 games of over 20 fantasy points. Elijah Moore versus the Texans. I'd be committing a Nick crime here if I wasn't going to talk about Elijah Moore. But sometimes you just have to ride the hot hand, and he has been extremely hot. Weeks 8 through 11, he's been the wide receiver 1 in fantasy, averaging 20.9 fantasy points. He's done it now with 3 quarterbacks, not named Zach Wilson, which some people will say, oh, that makes me nervous that Zach Wilson is now the starter. But I will say that I think it's just painting the picture that this offense is really game planning him to be more involved and to get the targets and get the touches in this offense. It's how you grow a rookie. So I like Elijah Moore as a good flex play this week against the Texans. I think the increase in the targets and having huge weeks recently is a really good sign for him rest of season. DK Metcalf, 5.6 and 7.1 the last 2 games, with Russell Wilson absolutely struggling. I think this is going to be a huge get-right game for the Seahawks, for Russell Wilson, and for especially DK Metcalf, who I think is going to have a massive week against Washington, who gives up the fourth most points per game to the wide receiver position. So I'm calling out a huge DK week this week with the Seahawks getting right after looking terrible the last 2 games. Noah Fant. The last time we saw a really big game out of him was week 6, but the Chargers do give up the 4th most points per game to the tight end position. I think that he's going to get a good 6 targets in this one and find the end zone. So I think Noah Fant is going to have a good week this week. And then last, Tyrod Taylor might be a little hot takey, but I think he might end up being a top 12 guy this week. The opening 2 weeks that he played in, before the injury, he had 23.64 and 16.5 fantasy points. This past game, 19.08. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in this one. The Jets, nothing bold here, but the Jets give up the most passing yards per game, the most total yards per game, and the most points scored per game off of the scoreboard. So I think Tyrod Taylor is actually going to have a nice week this week and could be a good streamer. Good luck this week, guys.